You crave seclusion, he said, leaning over to Khoja Nasreddin. Where will you find greater seclusion and more perfect peace than here? Any means to peace mekai, to aramish mekai, bag basha. Any means to wish you welcome aboard Cairo. Finding himself one day in Shiraz, the birthplace of the great Sadi, Khoja Nasreddin, he was Khoja Nasreddin by that time. Not little Nasreddin. Yeah. Suddenly heard the loud shouts of a crier at the bazaar. Ali Khoja bazaar the rotier mushikim sadamaya. Beast called cat. Beast sitting in a cage with the agitation in his heart has hastened towards the cries and beheld a tent on the square. At the entrance sat a young gypsy, a merry, beautiful damsel in earrings and beads, with a burnished copper tray for money in front of her, and opposite at the other entrance, the old woman sat dozing. She was utterly decrepit, having already passed through that portal of earthly existence, beyond which dreams and reality merge together. As hayat kasta hu do darja rasadat tama akhraishi kyunji dreams and reality merge together. Farna mane ki kudam jay ma khaw mein karna kuch reality hai. Khoja Nasreddin tossed a large silver rupee into the tray on purpose, so as to linger before the beautiful young gypsy while she counted out the change. She understood it, of course, and took her time with the change, which she counted out in small copper, her eyes demurely shadowed by velvety eyelashes, which failed, however, to conceal the smile that hovered upon her fresh, rosy lips. Khoja Nasreddin entered the tent and beheld the cat. The very same cat, only aged and decrepit like its mistress. Khoja Nasreddin called it but received no response. Belike it had grown deaf with old age. Coming out at the other end of the tent, Khoja Nasreddin returned to the entrance. The young gypsy thought it was because of her and laughed frankly with a flash of white teeth. But to her great chagrin, puzzlement, even indignation, Khoja Nasreddin preferred converse with the old woman. He bent over her and said softly, "Good morning, Grandma. Do you remember Bukhara? Do you remember the bazaar boy by the name of Nasreddin?" The old woman started, and a sudden light burst upon her face. Gasping, she cried out softly and leaned forward, clutching at the air with eager, trembling hands. But Khoja Nasreddin withdrew, saying within himself, "Let this be to her a fleeting echo from the past, an airy transit dream before the eternal sleep that soon will close those eyes." Before the eternal sleep that soon will close those eyes. He looked round. The old woman was still grasping, embracing the air with trembling hands, while the young one, utterly bewildered and alarmed, cast swift glances now at the old woman, now at the crowd into which the strange visitor had disappeared. He looked back no more, and the bazaar engulfed him in its seething, clamorous cauldron. Another incident happened to him in his childhood at the Bukhara bazaar. He was wandering between the rows of shops. एक दिगा incident स्टेशन इस मने बाजार में तरफ बैन दुकाना रही वो The unbearable heat drove him to a pool. बेचार गर्म बहुत पेश एक तालाब रहा. A woman covered with a thick veil, एक चादर थिरा, followed him. Hearing steps behind him, he looked around. एक नफर स्पष्ट पश्चिम है इधर. Wait, the woman said in odd voice, and advancing towards him, she threw back her veil and bent over him. She laid dry, hot hands on his cheeks. She brought her emaciated, grief-stricken face close to his, and fastened her eyes upon his chimshud as though she would pour something from her soul into his. Which is download. Or on the contrary, ya shayad, drink from his. As chimaziyago, shme hayat jari kana. He was confused. What did the woman want? Her eyes were big and black and wet with tears. Go! She whispered at last, pushing him gently. She said, go. May Allah preserve you always and everywhere. Go. She lowered her veil, and walked away down a by street with swift steps, as though someone were pursuing her. He gazed after her in perplexity, understanding not. Within an hour, in the motley turmoil of the bazaar, he had already forgotten the woman and remembered her no more. Many years later, when he was a grown-up man, he was spending the night in a roadside caravanserai somewhere between Beirut and Basra, and saw the woman in a dream. He recognized her face, her eyes, the voice saying, "May Allah preserve you always and everywhere." He awoke with an aching heart, realizing that that woman was his real mother. This was not a mere guess, but exact knowledge, clear and incontestable, which had come to him in some mysterious way. He bethought himself that he had never spoken a word to her, moved by a great compassion and a great love for her. He wept, repeating without end words of love and tenderness such as children use to their mothers. It was as if a door had suddenly been opened in his long past babyhood, and the words came to him of themselves, and he repeated them, kissing the dark night air, convinced that she could hear him, and responded to him with the palpitant, suffering but living heart of a mother. Thus did he meet his mother in his dreams, but her name he never discovered, and never visited her grave. Indeed, where could he seek the nameless grave? And wherefore should he seek it when she was ever alive and living to him? We have come to the end of our story about the childhood of Khoja Nasreddin. This story, of course, is incomplete and fragmentary. The few grains which we have gleaned could not be made more of, but there are others who follow us, and each will discover new graves, which he will bring to the common treasure house, the Baitul Mal Bait Baira, or to everybody to be there. And the common efforts will eventually create from this garnered stock a new book about Khoja Nasreddin, the book of his childhood. Our share is a small one. Mofek totesh dare, lekin ainda diga kiamat wana mazid nivishta kana paida kana. But then it lies in the foundation. Nazmo hisse mein se reze magar de bunyada. He, the perhaps still unborn master who is destined to write that book and put his name upon it, will not pass our modest labor by in silence. وامو نابغا مو كبايا من نرشنا مكارا كنا ونا سبيشيزي كارز مو دي تراساني خاموشي تير جدا نميتنا ضرور از منيزي تير مشا. And therein shall be our reward. جزاء ازمون ونجي خاندشني. Our hope and our solace. Chapter 34. Returning to the straight road of our narrative. Baim sida passer gap maim. Rafta badi mek chikar kama. Atrafa. The story became awal chigi kama. Returning to the straight road of our narrative concerning the days and affairs of Khoja Nasreddin in Chorak. We shall begin with the ass. He was living through days of purest bliss. Never before had life smiled upon him with such a pearly munificence of boundless joy and marvelous good luck. In the first place, he had moved from the clay hut by the lake. He was moved from the hut of the lake to the dwelling of Agabek. Where he occupied the best part of the house. With a door leading into the garden, whither he could descend at any time by way of the broad, easy steps and browse among the flowers and leaves without fear of chastisement. Secondly, for the gratification of all his desires, trays always stood ready with various kinds of bread cakes. Khabai, purros, kulchau, biscuito, naan, basha, baleshi. Apricots, radish, early melons, kharbuzai taza, and fruits of Chorak's fertile soil. और बेहतरीन खाक हम दरा चोरक खूब मेवाम में दिया तमाम चीज़ें हम बेहतरीन स्पेस दिए Of water, he drank none save that which had been rendered fit for noble palate by the aroma of rose petals. मैंने जो बच्चे चारक गुलाब गट कदम ही दिए. To such an extent had Khoja Nasreddin been able to persuade Agabek of the verity of the ass's transformation. Indeed, Agabek had even begun to think of a mate for him, but had encountered upon the path of his design insoluble doubts, for he knew not by what to be guided in this matter, by the outward appearance of the transformed one, or by his inner essence. Gangsam kadairak yari drunazir ma khayal asti khayal kanam ya pirin chis kar kanam. In all the rest, Agabek wasted no time. All his efforts, all his speech and cunning were directed towards a single end. Tamam makareh were yak hadaf fit kada, that of diverting the affections of the transformed one from Khoja Nasreddin to himself. Kichtor ma pejazi iki munqalib shuriya. انقلاب هم دمنيزي دیگه ما که استا میتر نمبر ما بال بورا نصرالدین استیستی اوت شنا یک روزی که بلی تخت میسر بیشنا بس ما پیش میشم. For this purpose he spent days on ends beside the ass. روز شو پیش خرجتان. Attending upon him personally, making suffering all asinine indelicacies of which there were more than enough. For that which is seemingly for the stable is disgusting in the chambers. He did everything he could to prevent Khoja Nasreddin from remaining alone with the ass and to reduce the minutes which they spent together. यानी आली कोशिश बलेज़िया कि ईद के वक्त तेर ना करना था वक्त माँ बाजूं भेजी खाल. The refulgent one is fatigued, or the prince is engaged in affairs of state, he would say impressively to Khoja Nasreddin as he dismissed him. कि जनाब शहज़ादा द हालत द दफ्तर बिज़ी है ये वक्त इजाज़त नहीं है. आले इतने मेला नसरुद्दीन रहा बिज़ी है शहज़ादा. Khoja Nasreddin submitted meekly. Okay, we say it. Although he was dying to know what Agabek could be telling the ass for days on end when they were alone together. And here it he did. Coming one day at an untimely hour, he found them both in the garden, deep in secret converse, standing in the flower beds, trampling the delightful clean carpet of the sweet-smelling flowers, sniffling, munching, and belly-rumbling stood the ass, devouring slice after slice of melon handed to him by Agabek, while guileful speeches were poured into his long ears. And after that, O illustrious prince, Badazu Janab Shahzada, Agabek whispered, he permitted himself the outrageous insolence of casting aspersions upon your royal nature, the Khalafshim Gabzada, as also upon that of your purple-clad parent. He said, nay, my tongue refuses to repeat the vile things that he said. He said, the prince is captious and stupid. He said that, not I. The prince is ill-natured, but Khoja, petty, obstinate, and his present lamentable aspect fully corresponds to his inner essence. Lurks there not here an evil intent to desert the great prince somewhere upon the road to Cairo, or still worse, to sell him to the drovers for a mere song as just an ordinary ass, as just an ordinary one of the long-eared and four-legged kind, in order to rob the Egyptian throne of its sole and lawful heir? And furthermore, he said, concealed behind a bush of Chinese honeysuckle, Khoja Nasreddin quietly withdrew unnoticed by Agabek. That night he said to the thief, I am apprised that our fruit is ripe.
Yeah, right.
Are shan mamaya ke mumeva phtashta basha thai. As always, you have acted unerringly. Biduni shak, biduni khudam ishtibah kamilan kara anjam dade, said the thief. Tell me, pray, what string in his heart have you chosen for so successful a game? इख़द कामयाब चल रहा तू तो खुदम था रकाश का देखिए इख़द कामयाब चल चले भाई अले राज अफसान नस पजा envy. Hassan, of all the foolish and harmful feelings to which men are here, ये मेरा संबंध कलंतरी मिरास इंसानियत है. This is one of the strongest. There is an Indian tale. Allah said to a man, "Ask me what you will, and I shall give it to you. But on one condition, that I shall give your neighbor twice as much." هرچی که میخوایی من تو میدم، فقط ویش کنو که باز ما همسایه تو دبل ازی بیدم. If you have a house, he shall have two. If you have a horse, he shall have a pair. What would you have? Almighty Allah Ta'ala answered the man, "I pray you, put out one of my eyes." It was third cock crow, the one that heralds the dawn. The thief rose and bowed to Khoja Nasreddin, saying, "It is time for me to go. What further errands have you for me? Diga Amr. What am I expected to do in the near future?" "You are to undertake another journey to Kokan." Allah the Great, every journey is a pair of boots. The souls burn away on these stones. This is the last one. You shall not return hither, and I shall overtake you in Kokan. To mori magar pas na mai mama the jante berso. I hear and obey. When am I to go? Okay. I shall tell you when. There was a small bower at the bottom of Agabek's garden. Here were no flowers, and the gardener never came hither with his shears. Here the ivy and vine grew freely. Gardener time entwining the bower with their mingled leaves. Here in the mornings the dewy freshness lingered longer. The air smelt of mint and damp earth, and the birds around it sang longer, for the dense leafage kept out the too early beams of the hot sun. It was in this bower one day that Khoja Nasreddin had an important talk with Agabek. Jai Sakut, Khamoshi, an old servant, Khidmatgari, blind, deaf, and ever silent, placed before them a jug of wine and 2 bowls. He was the only servant left in the house, the rest having been dismissed by Agabek in order not to have the secret of the transformed one divulged. Tamam nokraram burka da kasazi razi khar khabar najna. Ya kor mogum kar degish manda. And now, fearing no informer's tongues, he abandoned himself to the secret abominable vice of drunkenness, inclining Khoja Nasreddin thereto as well. Uram maga bukhar kam digam majlis digali nograr tamam burkada. That day he had started first thing in the morning. "Master, you're not fulfilling the prince's wish," said Khoja Nasreddin, receiving from Agabek's hands an overflowing bowl. "My time of departure is nigh, and you have not yet prepared me for my initiation into the office of Wazir and Court Treasurer of Egypt." Usumur farmaish nagdet ki mara mi chizara rasmai کوٹ وغیرہ ٹریننگ بھی دی کی این باز د کوٹ ور یاد بگیره نه یه چیز نه مفهمه. Why do you think already of departing? تومیال ری. The road to Cairo is a long one. Ram khud razi na. But not so long ago you said that you would not accept the post of vizier. چند وقت پیش گفتم گفتم ما دزید دلچسپی ندارم در وزارت. You were thinking of your learned affairs. طرفی علم معرفت تو رهی بودیم گفتم ما علم خواهیم خلوت برم و ما دنبال وزارت نیم. Of a secluded dwelling and a modest income for the rest of your life. I still think that ما میالم دم زقانیم but the Sultan may not agree to it. اگر او خوش نماد گفت تو باید بایی باز ما باید یاد داشته باشم. He may say accept this office or you go to the scaffold. اوضاع کنم توری اول تخت میشنی. He is not to be argued with, you know. بحث خو نمیتنی. So I have decided just in case to prepare myself for the office. Agabek blinked his dull little eyes uneasily and began to snuffle. What about the secret chamber? He said. That is just what I desire to talk about with you about. The best way of escaping it. You are rich in experience and wisdom. Give me your advice. As a reward, I swear I shall send you from Egypt a hookah worked in gold and a silver pitcher for wine. A hookah in a pitcher? Why? It was like promising 2 drops of water to one who was thirsting in the desert. It was not a hookah or a pitcher that Agabek was dreaming of, but the palace vaults in Cairo filled with gold. This, and what was more precious than any money, honors and great power. Khoja Nasreddin sat with his head lowered. He did not look at Agabek's face, but kept his gaze fixed on his hands. The trembling of the fat fingers and the throbbing of the swollen veins enabled him to read into his soul as clearly as in a magic book. Agabek's next words, therefore, were not entirely unexpected. Ozakbai, why not let me have your prince? معامله کنی همی پرینس مار تابرد مکن.
Korumuştu biz dedik.
Immediate assent would be bad policy. Kana şuma şudur. No, immediate razınama na. He would have to be kept on tenterhooks a while. There's the Changak Ban Basha. You, sneered Khoja Nasreddin. Bigger men have offered me the same thing. As tu kada kalana az ma khasta sada. Turbidum ajab adami tudiyum nahi. But first of all, the prince desires no other way companion to Cairo but me. Awal, wo kho rafiq diga na me khayta Cairo ur ma qazu deal kade. Secondly, the prince may be persuaded. Besides, while he is in the shape of an ass. He may be treated shabbily. You want to say? Deceived, O master? I thought nothing of the kind. But this answer may be interpreted according to one's choice, since he is unable to utter human words. But you forget the tail wagging, the ear twitching. Those are just the things that can be interpreted, you know. اونا اشاره هایی که باید معنی زول برکنی که گوشت شورده چی معنا داره دون خود تورده چیز معنا داره. Verily, master, you are born for courts offices. واقعی که اشاره رو مفهمی. زندگی تمام دمنه دربار تیر شده. There is a second obstacle. लेकिन एक मसला है, however, yourself. Bukan cuma bahas itu masalah yang sekarang. How will you reward me? Zidil tu cheez mara inam meri. He desires to become a vizier of Egypt, His desire, to become a vizier of Egypt inflamed Agabek so violently that he even acquired eloquence of tongue. You crave seclusion, he said, leaning over to Khoja Nasreddin. Where will you find greater seclusion and more perfect peace than here? Any means to peace mekhay, to aramish mekhay, ek bagh basha. Any means to be civil ke baro Cairo. Oi bhai. Magar you crave seclusion. Khalwat mekhay, he said, leaning over to Khoja Nasreddin. Where will you find greater seclusion and more perfect peace than here? Indeed, the peace that reigned all around was like that of a sweet dream. You desire to have an income for life? Yak income mitar bayad ka monthly baretu. My lake will provide you with a prosperous livelihood. En income kodi bandra bhal. Yes, but look at the trouble I should have with that lake and the distribution of the water. Ma cheez mo famam da zibandu aur shirqan taqsim ko kirbi de nadim mada zida sar mar akhtanaku. Khoja Nasreddin said, it will divert me from my learned studies. Aur khanduk jamel al masu saburum belchadem suburum belchadem.
Oh, big room.
Hire a keeper. Ek chowkidar velwa. For a small salary, he will do everything himself. Murek chan rupi bhi de un kar toranjan nahi deti. Qarar bishi bekh. How true! Wow! It never occurred to me that I could hire a keeper. Rasmagi wala. Akhi chowkidaram girfta metanam tawil metanam. To be sure, you will entrust all your affairs to him and be free to devote yourself to the collection of your magic herbs. Plants to jump kani, oron qarar bigger to jump konar qarar. Bekhan, steady ko. Magic herbs, Khoja Nasreddin cried with sudden animation. This collection of magic herbs, that is just for me. Yes. Inal ma fahmid maqsad zindagi. Collection of herbs. To be sure it is, Agabek cried eagerly, pleased at having found the right key. His reason, which had long since degenerated into cunning, began to stir and wriggle all its 80 little legs. There are no ends of magic herbs here. I knew it all the time, but did not tell you. They grow everywhere. One of them you have already found, but that is a mere nothing, 100th part. Is that so? Khoja Nasreddin whispered with a look of incredulous wonder. 1,000th! Ek plant ek butar tide ye kho 1000 room says unia butai. You have no idea how much of these magic herbs grow here. Stimulated by the wine, Agabek now let his tongue run away with him. Fearing not to be caught in a lie, for before him sat a man of scholarly pursuits. Subsequently, one who, in the ordinary affairs of life, could be likened to an infant and be imposed upon with impunity. But before him sat Khoja Nasreddin, who was able to combine soaring flights of soul with great shrewdness of mind, and was not at all inclined to act the fat sheep to all kinds of crafty rascals who prowled about the earth. Here indeed was an edifying example of all learned men, all the sages and poets in their everyday lives. There, look at that ivy, Agabek ran on breathlessly. It is a magic plant too. And those bardocks over there as well. All the plants round about are magic ones. You will not find a single plant that is not a magic one. There was a magician here long before you who explained this all to me. What is more, the stones here, Sangam, are magic ones. They just lie about to be picked up. That magician carried away a whole sack full and 2 ewers of magic water besides. I forgot to tell you, there's a magic water not far from here, quite close by. Everything here is magical. Everything. What man could withstand such a combination as magic herbs, magic stones, and magic waters? Khoja Nasreddin scummed. Yes, he would cede the prince in exchange for the lake. Bare ki agar ma prince tawil kanam the badali the band, the house, the orchard, the bagh, and all else that belong to the lake. Varshiki as khudi banda and 10,000 tangas besides. I have only 7,000 tangas in ready money. Falan page mein the half the zarch tayar porta was it a bag. Only 7, and I must leave myself something for the way to Cairo, surely. I'll pay Musafir Cairo. What about the jewels which you recently received from Muhammad Ali? Khoja Nasreddin reminded him. They settled on 5,000. Agabek was to have the remaining 2,000 and the jewels for the journey. 2,000 shira qad jawahirat to bigger bray safar to board. The prince will not refuse, said Agabek. He has come to know me well these last few days. Aur ye sahib ke sam bilkul qarsh na maya mu matlab bain khub antar boljak de gi khamish na sin ale gabek di khmu fahme. If it comes to that, you can fall ill or even make believe that you have died. We shall arrange it so that he suspects not and never learns aught. يقول تكرمني كتو مطلب ما مقوم خوجا فاوت كدرا افتم زو تعال لستو قد مرز بعد جناب. Khoja Nasreddin had no desire to die, either in reality or in pretense. That is needless, said he. Why employ deceit in such a righteous cause? Let us try to persuade the prince. Inali prince manda ki garu qabul kana. Bas say ma maamla. And forth they went on persuasion bound. There was tail wagging. Wait. I think he's saying ki on. And there was ear twitching alpanti. Though these were duly interpreted, they returned to the bower. Now there remains a small matter. Agabek rejoiced. Every spring, Qazi Abdurrahman visits these parts from the big village of Yangi Mazar, in which he permanently resides. He examines lawsuits, kari tamami adalatiyu, kanuniyu, daftariyu, karara, arsal maya, account वगैरह जो बना. and legalizes transactions, he must be somewhere close at hand. Tomorrow I shall send riders out to find him. And you, Ozakbai, meanwhile, prepare plenty of the magic herbs and write down all the incantations upon paper so that I should not forget them. اینا رو تو نمیخوانی بریزی؟ باز همون دوایش رم جور کو که باز ما زیاد نره نه. The prince is already yours. شهزاده تو آپ کا ہو گیا. But I have not seen my newly acquired house yet. تو خود پرنس از تو شد. این خانه از من تو کجایه؟ ما قچه معامله کدو. said Khoja Nasreddin. Come, I'll show you. They looked over the house. It proved to be a very good one. Built to stand for years and years. Here is a wedding gift for that mad young couple, Saeed and Zulfia. They will have more room enough here for themselves and their progeny, thought Khoja Nasreddin as he followed Agabek from room to room. Saeed and Zulfia ko bacha hai qada sausto akhra min kita kana behe. Sala and min generation kitashna. The house was quite clean, spacious and airy. The noonday sun poured its generous rays through the wide open window, spreading under the feet of Khoja Nasreddin its gay little carpets woven of hot light and setting a herd of sunny spangles dancing upon the wall when the wind blowing from the garden stirred the window frames. Ling, 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 ling. खूब जाए पैदा करता बड़े सही जुल्फिया